Unity, duty, destiny. Welcome to Night Vale. When we left off, these two schmucks had just gotten done getting sucked through an interdimensional portal. The two of them get pooped out of interdimensional space right underneath the Colosseum. They're just in time to group up with a couple of familiar faces. The Toahaga, Axon and Brutaka, and Miserix. Yes, I'm using a different model for Miserix now. Just, again, a reminder, this is not at all what Miserix looks like. He looks like a giant dragon, but it's not that important right now. The gang have wound up in a place known as the core processor. This, one could argue, is the brain of the Great Spirit Robot. So this seems like it would be a good place to be, but it's not. Makuta's voice starts echoing through the core processor, saying, "Ha ha, you're too late, get fucked." The first thing Makuta does is render Brutaka's mask of interdimensional travel non-functional. He then yeets Kitangu, Brutaka, and Axon just straight out of the core processor. And then it gets worse. Green. As Brutaka and Axon are being yeeted out of the core processor, Makuta traps their minds both in inescapable visions, which wind up being not as inescapable as one might think, but still, it's pretty bad. A similar fate befalls the Toahaga. Their minds get trapped in a reality where they think that they've defeated Makuta and everything is fine. Which then leads to a situation where the Toahaga are just kind of gallivanting around the city of Metru Nui that's been taken over by Rakshi and are just like, everything's fine, and the Matoran are watching them like, what the fuck? Helryx is captured. I'm not exactly sure how it happens, but she just kind of gets snatched up and put in a cell. She gets put away with Miserix, but Miserix doesn't get off as easily as she does. Makuta decides to basically just do his own version of Dorian Gray and trap Miserix in a painting of himself. So this leads to a situation where Helryx is stuck in a cell with Miserix and she's just like not quite sure whether or not he's dead or whether he's just trapped in a pocket dimension, and it's kind of weird. But alright, so now Makuta has fully taken over the Great Spirit Robot. He's in control of the entire Matoran universe. He's become a literal god. And now the entire universe has to band together to destroy him. Such is life. Don't worry about everybody who just got turbo fucked by Makuta. We'll get to that. For now, it's time for us to return to the misadventures of fucking Vezon. If you'll remember, last time we checked in with our toothy boy, he was about to get flattened by a giant tidal wave. Thankfully for him, he just hopped through another portal. So this new dimension hopping power that Vezon has is really great. What really sucks about it, though, is that he has no idea how to control it whatsoever. So Vezon's just kind of tumbling every which way through the multiverse. He hops around so much that at some point he just gets stuck between time, and a mysterious voice begins to speak to him. "Hey buddy, it seems like you have no idea what the fuck you're doing. You want some help with that?" Vezon responds to the voice with, "Sure, why not?" Vezon is then thrown unceremoniously through another dimensional portal and winds up on his ass in a jail cell, at the feet of a very strange-looking prisoner. Vezon doesn't know it yet, but he is currently in the presence of one of the great beings. Oh, hi. So I'm sure you're wondering who the hell this guy is that Vezon just ran into. I don't think we canonically ever got a name for this guy, but this is the great being that touched the Mask of Life and went crazy. When the Mask of Life was forged, this guy touched it, and he inadvertently absorbed some of its powers. But not in a way that's at all cool and good, in a way that is super bad and double plus not okay. Wherever this guy goes, a field of life surrounds him, meaning that literally everything around him that he touches comes to life. The stones around him breathe, the chains that bind him writhe like snakes, the light that gets extinguished by the darkness screams as it dies. I'm like barely paraphrasing any of this. Greg Farshty is just 10 out of 10. This shit's so fucking cool. So in order to prevent him from causing more problems than he already had, the other great beings locked him up on the forest moon Bota Magna, away from everybody. Or mostly anybody. We'll get to that. This is the guy that Vezon has now made friends with. Hey, Vsauce, Maxwell here. So Makuta has taken over the entire Matoran universe, and things are bad. The Toanua have split up to go on various different missions, and so Tahu has had to assemble his own team. Tahu's new team consists of Kopiki, a Matoran chronicler, a member of the Order of Madanui named Jomak, a Dark Hunter named Guardian, the Dark Hunter we've already met named Lariska, and the Kraka, the shape-shifting sewer demon. Things are not ideal. The big question at hand is, how do we fight the universe? Do we just kick rocks until Makuta dies? Like, what? As Tahu explains, his ideal solution would involve just smashing everything until they get what they want. But he also knows that that's just not going to work. So Guardian's just like, well, what if we just, left? This universe is hostile to us. We know that we can just leave. Why don't we? Guardian is then promptly swallowed up by a giant hole in the ground. Guardian is now dead. The rest of the team finds themselves very suddenly cornered by Makuta's forces. And it doesn't seem like there's any way out this time. Tahu's team is completely turbo-fucked. They're surrounded by Exotoa, and Makuta speaks to them now through the voice of the Exotoa. "You can come with us as prisoners, or you can die here fighting pointlessly for your stupid lives," say the robots. We already know what Tahu's gonna pick, and the rest of his team follows suit. But before it can come to that, the ground opens up yet again and swallows all of the Exotoa. Onua's here to save the day. Onua pulls his brother's ass out of the fire, and he and his team quickly beat feet out of the area. Onua explains the situation they're in and what they must do. Makuta is still learning how the universe works. He's not fully integrated with the technology yet, so he still needs to use Rockshi and Exotoa to get his shit done. Particularly Rockshi. Now, the Order of Madanui never finished destroying the pits of energized protodermis that are needed to create Rockshi, and that is what they are now going to set out to do, because every blow that they can deal to Makuta buys them more time. Garlic butter croissant monkey balls. So now let's jump to a completely different set of characters, the Toamari. The Toamari are on the island of Zakaz, the island that belongs to the murderous gorilla people known as Skakti. They need to figure out what's been going on the island of Zakaz ever since Makuta took over the universe. And what they find is really bad. They watch as a group of Skakti begin to perform what looks like a ritual sacrifice. A bunch of helpless victims, including what remains of the Paraka, are thrown into a giant stewing pot of energized protodermis. As the Toamari watch in horror from afar, it occurs to them that, wait, the Skakti don't know how to use energized protodermis. They also generally don't organize like this. They mostly organize into small tribes to just murder each other for fun. This isn't normal. They come to the conclusion that this has to be the work of Makuta. He's mind-controlling these Skakti the same way that he mind-controlled the Paraka. The team then watches in horrified awe as out of the cauldron of energized protodermis, a gigantic golden being emerges. Yes, I know I'm using the same stand-in that I did for Botar, but Botar's fucking dead, so it doesn't really matter now, does it? This creature that the Skakti have awoken is known as the gold-skinned being. The gold-skinned being basically feeds on the aspirations of those who believe in it, and then kind of materializes those aspirations into reality, at least to the best of its own ability. This shit's fucking OP. He's also able to put people in a trance, which the Toamari find out the hard way. Because as soon as the gold-skinned being emerges from the tank, the Toamari start thinking, wow, he's kinda hot. I mean, he seems pretty cool. We should hang out with him some more. Get to know him, you know? Couldn't be all that bad, right? Right? And so now the Toamari are under the spell of a giant golden reptilian demon. This will become important later. Much later. We'll get to that. Chipotle Ranch Jalapeno Snail Dick. The city of Metronui is under occupation, and the streets are just flooded with Rockshi. Turaga Duma has been ousted from power and been replaced with none other than, you guessed it, fucking Akmu. That's right, Makuta's favorite little baby-back bitch is now a puppet dictator. Just goes to show, if you fuck over enough people, you eventually wind up at the top. But deep in the archives of Metronui, a resistance cell is forming. The cell is led by half of the Chroniclers company that Takua used to be in charge of, Maku, Hafu, and Kapura. I'm realizing I never really talked about the Chroniclers company. They were kind of a big part of the Madanui online game. It just never really came up when I initially started making these videos. Now on their own, these Matoran can't really do much against the occupying force of giant robotic lizard freakazoids. But the team may have an ace up their sleeve. An obscenely powerful being that we thought was long dead. Toa motherfucking Tuyet. Oh god, oh fuck. So what in the dog dick fuck is Tuyet doing here? So as a refresher, in an alternate reality, Tuyet established an apartheid state where she was the supreme ruler because she got a hold of an artifact known as the Nui Stone that multiplied her power by like a whole fuckload. In the prime reality, her plans were thwarted, the Nui Stone was destroyed, and she was killed. At least that's what we all thought happened. The reality of what happened is far, far stranger. When the Nui Stone, the all-powerful artifact, was destroyed, some of the shrapnel made its way into Tuyet's body. The Order of Madanui captured her and started interrogating and experimenting on her to try and figure out more about the Nui Stone and see if they couldn't maybe recreate it for themselves. They had no luck with this, and after a number of years of being tortured and experimented on, Tuyet decided that she'd had enough and broke herself out of prison. And now she's here, for better or worse. We'll see what happens. So Tuyet has teamed up with the underground resistance in Metronui in the interest of destroying Makuta. Her intentions are far from pure, however. Tuyet still believes in her divine right to take over the world and be in charge of everything, and should Makuta be overthrown, she's going to seize the opportunity to do so. There's absolutely no doubt about that. These three don't know that. However, Hafu is suspicious of Tuyet. Tuyet was brought into the fold by Maku, and Hafu is not all the way on board with it, but he also doesn't really have any options. None of them do, so here we are, I guess. So now this new group of folks is making their way through the archives, and they make contact with a familiar face. At least it's a face that's familiar to these three Matoran. Toa Leewa! Awesome, this is great, right? Right? Well, see, the thing is, Leewa's acting a little sus. Hafu's the first to notice that something ain't right. But what's wrong with Leewa? Well. So, something ain't right about Leewa. But what exactly? Well, to find out, we're gonna have to rewind a little bit. Leewa's mission originally was to make contact with the creator god known as Artaka and convince him to join the war against Makuta and not just kind of sit idly by making stuff. But upon arriving on Artaka's island, he realized he was already too late. Artaka's Matoran are putting up a hell of a fight, but it's just not enough. They're being overrun, and Rakshi are pushing further and further into the island, which means they're pushing closer and closer to Artaka. Leewa wants to step in, but he hears Artaka's voice in his head. It's too late for me, you poor sad green man. However, I do have a solution for you. Leewa's like, alright, baller, I'll do anything. And Artaka's like, alright. Next thing Leewa knows, he's been teleported to a place completely shrouded in darkness. And a horrible voice graces his ears. What the fuck? Where the hell did you come from? Yeah, shit's about to get weird. Is that hit rapper and artist DaBaby? Leewa finds himself face to face with the worst thing he's ever seen. Tren Krom. As a brief refresher, Tren Krom is a giant telepathic mass of meat and tentacles that got fused to the inside of a cave on an island out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. And so Tren Krom asks Leewa, what the fuck are you doing here? And Leewa responds with, I need your help, I guess. The universe is falling apart and Artaka sent me to you because you'd have answers or something? As another brief refresher, Tren Krom is one of the people who was in charge of assembling the Great Spirit robot, so he knows his way around the circuitry. The problem is, Tren Krom explains, I can't fucking go anywhere, because I'm locked in this goddamn cave! So Leewa's like, well, can't you just tell me what to do and I'll be on my way? And because Leewa is one of the unluckiest people in this entire universe, Tren Krom says, no, I have a better idea. Woo! So instead of telling Toa Leewa all the secrets of how to unfuck the universe, Tren Krom just says, Yaga! And without prior warning, swaps his soul for Leewa's. So Leewa awakens from unconsciousness inside the body of Tren Krom. And without so much as a so long, bitch, Tren Krom leaves his cave in Leewa's body. However, once Tren Krom has left his stony prison, he hears the voice of Artaka in his head. If you don't return that nice green man's body when this is all over, I will shove my hand so far up your ass you will taste the god of creation in the back of your throat. And Tren Krom's like, sure, whatever, fully not intending to do so. Then, ostensibly by the will of Artaka, Leewa Krom is transported into the archives, where he runs into the Chronicler's Company and Toa Tuyet. There's a moment that these two share where they both realize that each one is trying to bullshit the other, and it's great. It's always a bitch to get the TikTok algorithm to remember that I exist after I take a break, so maybe this will help. Anyhow, let's jump real quick to Helryx. She's imprisoned with Miserix, except Miserix isn't actually, fully there. Pterodax used his powers to turn Miserix into a two-dimensional form of himself. He's not actually dead, but his mind believes so hard that he's dead that he might as well be. It's weird. So as Helryx is sitting in her cell reflecting on what's happened and what the state of the Matoran universe is right now, she has a revelation of sorts. Helryx reaches the same conclusion reached by most American foreign policy pundits, is that everything just needs to be blown up. She's been the leader of the Order of Matanui for most of her life, and at this point she's thinking to herself, what am I actually protecting here? And the answer she comes to is, well, the inhabitants of the universe, and not the universe itself. And if she blows up the giant robot that they live in, then, they'll find somewhere else to live, right? Fuck it. And given that she's so close to the Great Spirit's core, if she went Nova, yeah, it's boom time.
Hi, welcome back to Bionicle TikTok.
Helryx is preparing to blow herself up to save her people. It's never really a sentence you want to hear, is it? But then half the Chronicler's Company, Toa Tuyet, and Tren Krom in the body of Leewa show up to stop her. Before Helryx can ask what the fuck is going on, Leewa says, I'm Tren Krom, bitch, get out of the fucking way! And he opens a hatch in the wall to send an email to Matanui. The contents aren't really that important right now, just know that story-wise it's really fucking stupid. Then Tren Krom sees Miserix basically just frozen in carbonite and is like, huh, that's neat! And with very little thought, he sets the son of a bitch free. Miserix's first thought as he enters back into consciousness is, I'm gonna kill the shit out of Pterodax! So he also wants to blow up the Great Spirit robot. Then Brutaka and Axon show up to save Helryx, and they're just, I guess, a little bit too late. Nice going, guys. Helpful. So with everybody assembled, Helryx explains to the crew that her plan is just to blow up the universe. Her idea is met with a mixed response. Thinking of cold opens should not be one of the hardest parts of doing this, but, here we are, I guess. So Helryx has just explained to the present company that she wants to blow up the universe. Miserix is totally on board because he just wants to kill Pterodax, and if Pterodax is the universe, that means he'll kill the universe. He doesn't really have any perspective beyond that, honestly. Axon sees some logic to it, and he's also unapologetically loyal to the organization and to Helryx as an extension of that, so he's like, yeah, sure, I'm in. I guess that's fair. Brutaka, Tuyet, and Tren Krom are not on board with the idea at all. Tuyet wants to preserve the universe because she wants to be in control of the universe and establish her own little fascist apartheid state. We love an ambitious girl boss. Tren Krom wants to preserve the universe because as much as he dislikes the denizens of the universe, he's, one of the main architects of it. He doesn't want to see his creation go to waste. And now that Brutaka is an ascendant gigachad, he just tells Helryx to go fuck herself because he takes his orders from Destiny now. And so the battle lines are drawn. The Matoran run for their lives, trying to make themselves scarce as the fight breaks out. At least I'm pretty sure that's what happened. It's mentioned that they discussed doing this and then they're just not brought up again, so yeah. Axon's like super bummed to have to fight Brutaka again because they kind of just made up as friends and now they're fighting again and it really sucks for him. Poor sad lie-detecting lumberjack himbo. Brutaka, from what I can tell, does not really give a shit. The duality of man. And then, because this prison cell couldn't get any more crowded and chaotic, this guy shows up. The first thing Artaka does is exorcise Tren Krom's soul from Leewa's body. Leewa returns to his old body, equally relieved to no longer be a plate of evil spaghetti and confused as to where the fuck he is now. Helryx is quick to tell her old boss to go fuck himself because she's gonna blow up the universe. And Artaka's like, now, you know I can't let you do that. But before an even more chaotic and unbalanced fight can break out, the voice of Makuta Pterodax reverberates through the cave. What's up, bitches? Yeah, it's pretty great, but I can't just give that shit away for free now, can I? So the gang's been discovered by Makuta Pterodax. And now that they've been discovered, they know that there's not much they can do. They're kind of fucked now. The gang, however, does not truly realize how fucked they are. Because at this current moment, the Great Spirit Robot is drifting through space towards the desert planet where Mata Nui currently is. So when Makuta uses the power of the Great Spirit Robot to eject them all out of the Great Spirit Robot, they find themselves hurtling through the vacuum of space. Leewa does his best to use his air powers to put air bubbles around everybody, but it's not gonna last. They're definitely gonna die. 7 of the most powerful beings in the Matoran universe, the greatest hope of the future, are floating through space and are probably going to die. This is it. This has to be it. They're all going to die. The universe is fucked. There's no coming back from this. Except... So just as everybody's about to suffocate in the vacuum of space, a portal opens and Vezon comes out and is like, come with me if you want to live! And so everybody steps through the portal because the alternative is death. On the other side, they find, of course, fucking Vezon and also this great being motherfucker. If you'll remember, this is the guy who touched the Mask of Life and went crazy because everything in a certain radius of him just comes to life now. Helryx finds this out as she tries to approach him, and her armor starts to strangle her. Leewa is the first of the gang to look out the window of the prison cell, and he sees a vast jungle that's larger than any he's ever seen. Trying his best to conceal his boner, he asks the Great Being where the hell they are. The Great Being explains that they're on Bota Magna. This is the third portion of what was originally a giant planet, and is now just a jungle moon of a desert planet. Leewa's like, baller, I'm gonna go investigate. He flies out, somehow. It's not a great prison, I guess. And he's immediately captured by natives. Great job, buddy. So now we're gonna jump to Mazeka and melding Pterodax. So to refresh your memory, Mazeka, a kung fu master with a heart of gold, and Voltraz, a tiny little shitheel, got trapped in an alternate dimension. In this dimension, everything is the opposite of everything, and that means that Makuta are good guys, and are bastions of light and, well, goodness, I guess. Well, the great beings of this universe captured Voltraz to experiment on him for fun, because they were like, oh, he's pretty evil, seems like we should stick a bunch of needles in him and figure out why. And as a sort of quid pro quo, they allowed Mazeka to leave with their version of Makuta Pterodax, who we just refer to as melding Pterodax, because the universe that he comes from is called the melding universe, because anyway, rewatch the old videos if you want to understand the whole picture of that. Anyhow, these two pop back into the prime reality where Mazeka is from. Things have gotten much worse since Mazeka left. The thing is, this universe's Makuta Pterodax is essentially God now, and he has just noticed that an incredibly powerful being has just appeared within his universe. And he's not happy with another him walking around. Don't mind me just putting off doing actual life stuff. So quite shortly after reappearing in the prime reality, Mazeka and melding Pterodax have to reckon with the reality that they've been spotted. This universe's Pterodax is not happy that there's another one of him now. So he sicks the army of Shadow Takanuva that Tridax was making on these guys. This universe's Pterodax assumes that melding Pterodax, being a being of light and virtue and whatever, just won't kill, like a Toa, you know? And that might seem like a relatively sound assessment, but wrong-o. Mazeka and melding Pterodax brutally murder every single one of these Shadow Takanuva. And melding Pterodax is basically like, ain't no thing, bro, come fuck with me. Then all of a sudden there's a massive earthquake. It takes them a minute to figure out what happened, but they deduce from the general vibe that Makuta's dead. Pterodax has been deleted, wiped from the census. His pronouns are now was-were. But how did this happen? When? Why? Well,